Hello there, thank you very much for joining me today. And here we are back in Lunar Zoo. So this is our zoo based very much on structures and gardens. And in the last episode I constructed this quite elaborate penguin habitat over here, which was quite a challenge. Oh look, all the penguins are just marching out together, isn't that cool? All walking in a line, going for a swim. Very nice. So yes, this is what I was doing in the last episode, and it was quite a long project, and the video itself was quite long because there was an awful lot going on, but it has turned out really nicely. Yeah, a fine addition to the zoo, even though the penguins keep escaping. Oh look, there's one. Oh, they just make me laugh. I don't know how they do it, I really don't. They just keep on finding themselves out in the flowers. Let's move you back in and then I can actually get on talking about what we're doing today. Off you go, Maya. Right, now stay where you're meant to be, you silly penguin. Okay, so today we are coming over the other side of the zoo again through our archways. Let's wander through here, past our koala bears. Is there any koala up here? No, don't know where they are at the moment. And past our aardvarks. Are they around? Is anyone around? No aardvarks today. No one's out playing. Okay, never mind. Well, this is where we're going today, and I've already started a small construction. So this is just a little hut, pretty simple design, and a classic rotation technique here to get that to look how I wanted it. Yeah, pretty happy with that actually. I think it turned out pretty nice. Obviously it's not a finished structure yet. It's going to be several of these put together and connected, and it's going to be a home for Aldabra giant tortoises, and so they are going to be going in this area over here. That is my plan, because I love these tortoises. I am a tortoise owner in real life, so they're always one of the first animals that I put into my zoos. No matter which zoo I build, it's always going to have some tortoises in it pretty early on, because I just think they're great animals, and they're very good in the game as well. I love watching them. They're very realistic in the game actually, as all the animals are, luckily. So this building, like I say, my idea is to have 3 of these in an L shape, interconnected. So I will remove one of these lower down panels and put them sideways to make sort of little connection tunnels. And then there will be, so that's probably, I don't know if that's going to stay exactly there. It may move further back, and there will be an L shape of these, and then probably a building as an indoor area as well, proper indoor area, because what I like to do with my tortoise habitats is to give them an indoor brick building, so an enclosed space where they can have some heat lamps, because all tortoises love a bit of heat, and they particularly like to get away somewhere sheltered. Tortoises are they're funny animals. They really like being under things and in things. If you just put a tortoise in a square box, pretty much all the time, once it's been in there a little while and it's had a little wander around, it will navigate its way into one of the corners, and it will just face directly into the corner and fall asleep, because that's just what they do. They feel safe when they're tucked into a corner, because they can't be attacked from the front. Then they can't be attacked from too many directions if they're surrounded by something solid on 2 sides. And that's just the tortoise's mentality, because obviously a tortoise is a very vulnerable animal. It can't attack anything that's attacking it. It can't run away, it can't fly away, it can't swim. So really its only defense is to hide, and obviously it can pull its feet and its head into its shell. So if they feel threatened at all or scared, that's what they do. They can pull their head and their feet right inside their shells to try and protect themselves. And when you let a tortoise out into the wild, it'll only come out for food. The rest of the time it will find itself a bush to hide under, or some long grass to walk into, or if there's loose soil they'll bury themselves. They'll actually dig themselves down into the soil. Our little tortoise, she's only small. She's probably about 6-7 inches long, so she's not particularly big at all, and we let her roam around our garden. And being a gardener, I do keep the flower beds quite well dug over, so the soil is very loose, and quite often we'll go out there to find her at the end of the day when we bring her indoors, and we have to really hunt around for her because she's actually buried herself down into the soil, and sometimes you could just see the top of her shell sticking out of the ground. It gets particularly tricky at this time of year. As I'm recording this, it's the start of autumn here in the UK, and so there are a lot of leaves on the floor at the moment, and she blends in with the leaves very well. So at the moment it's really hard finding her in the evenings, especially as it gets dark so early. I sometimes forget to bring her in, and then I have to go out with a torch and hunt around in the flower beds for her and hope that she's not buried herself too deep that I can't see her. And quite often she's just sitting in amongst a pile of leaves, and she just blends in completely. You can't see her, so I have to get on my hands and knees and kind of dive around for her. Anyway, sorry, enough of my my home life, me and my tortoise. Let's crack on with the build, shall we? So that's the start, and I've got a rough plan, but a lot of it I am kind of just making it up as I go along. So without any more jabbering from me, I will crack on with a bit more building and be right back. Right, so here we have our structure in place now. So I have duplicated the building 3 times, made it into the L shape, and then I just connected them using the same pieces here. Obviously this is in quite a few different buildings, all of these pieces, because they're all they're all at funny angles and whatever. I mean, even these buildings themselves are in 2 buildings. You see, each one is 2 blueprints, but that's just how you have to do things sometimes. So the tortoises obviously will come out of their bedroom, which I'll show you in a second, and they'll have different options of where to go. I think this is pretty standard for tortoise habitats, really. Low barriers obviously, because they can't really get out of places, although they are tremendously good climbers if they're determined enough, and if the walls aren't high enough, or if they're made of certain materials, then you will find tortoises climbing pretty well. So for example, if this was a mesh fence, you would find a tortoise trying to climb out. Certainly a small tortoise. The bigger ones not so much, because they can't lift their own weight, but our little tortoise is quite a climber. She actually climbs up wooden fence panels. She doesn't get very high, but she does get off the ground. She gets a few inches high up the panel, which is quite impressive, really. The only problem is when they climb is that they often then fall backwards and land on their backs, and of course a tortoise on its back is essentially going to die because they can't do anything. They can't get up. They can't right themselves. So you have to keep an eye on them, basically. You have to watch tortoises a lot, because you don't want it lying on its back for too long. Obviously they'll survive for quite a long time sitting on their back, but it can't be good for them, can it? All the blood will rush to their heads, and obviously they can't eat, and it makes them even more vulnerable to predators as well. So yeah, you do have to keep an eye on them. Luckily in the game they don't seem to do any sort of climbing, so that's good. So this will be their habitat, and then I've built them, or started to build them, their solid bedroom. So they need an area like this because they need to be able to get out of the wind and the rain, and this may protect them to a certain degree outside, but it's not the same as having a fully enclosed area. So this is going to be their bedroom. Obviously I've still got a lot to do with it, but in here they will have bedding, and the roof here will support some heat lamps, which I will create. They are something that I created right back in my very first zoo, which was Green Valley Zoo that I created. That was my first attempt in the game, and one of the first things that I built in there was a tortoise habitat, and I made these lovely little heat lamps, and every time I do a tortoise enclosure now I use the same technique for the heat lamps, so I will do so again. I've obviously put in some pathways, so let's look at it from above. I wanted these little sort of viewing areas, and they just fit perfectly into these gaps here. So that's gonna be really cool. Obviously, it has created a gap here, which I will fill in with a garden. I think I'll probably do more of this edging with the hedge around here, and then some shrubs in the middle, maybe some statues or something like that. And then the path comes around the back here. You know, kept it fairly plain around this end. Obviously this end there's nothing to see. This is the sort of the functional end, whereas here you want to keep the path as close to the habitat as you can, so it snakes in and around and it really hugs the fence as much as possible. So yeah, so there's going to be probably more shrubbery. So this technique that I used with the shrubs and the trees here, I'll probably continue that all the way along the back here as the edge of the park. Of the zoo, I should say. I always call it a park. I'm still stuck in the old Planet Coaster terminology when you are building a theme park, not a zoo. I need to get it into my head. It's a zoo, not a park. Right, so yeah, and then I'll probably just do some flower beds in these gaps around here, and then the gaps around all the pathways, they'll all just get filled in with plants as well. So I'll make it quite a colourful area, I think. Quite a few flowers in here. Probably shrubs in this large area, and then proper flowers around the smaller bits. I think that will look nice. So yeah, there we go. That is the main sort of shape and size of the tortoise habitat. I think it's going to look really nice. I think it looks nice already, actually. I think if you saw that from a distance, you'd instantly think of something like tortoises. Maybe meerkats could probably live in a habitat like this as well. I don't know. Something small. What else is small? I don't know, actually. There's not that many things that could live in this habitat. So yeah, tortoises and meerkats probably. In fact, meerkats would be pretty cool in there, wouldn't they? I think you could build little structures in the middle for them. Interesting. Yeah, might have to try that. Unfortunately, obviously I've already got meerkats in this zoo, so they won't be in this zoo, but yeah, maybe I'll do something similar to this for meerkats at some point. That would be kind of cool, wouldn't it? Anyway, I digress. So let me crack on with a bit more. I'll probably try and finish this off next, I think, and then I'll start work on the insides here with a bit of decoration. And then we'll get some animals in as well. I'll probably have 4, I think. 4 tends to be a good number. I do 4s with a lot of the animals. I know in real life a lot of them would probably just be in pairs, but for the sake of the game and managing to see the animals in the habitats, usually I put more in. You know, I don't worry too much about realism. I just want to actually be able to see the animals walking around the lovely habitats that I build for them. So that's probably what I will put in here is 4. But let me head off and see what I do next. Excuse me, sorry. Just a mini update here. I just wanted to show you our lovely tortoises. Meet the family. We have Rukia. We have Suktai. We have Akins. And we have Gahiji. Wow, they are crazy names. I was hoping for sort of Fred, Bob, you know, Laura, Sarah, something like that. But no, never mind. So I've just put them in. Obviously I haven't decorated out here. I've just put a few enrichment items in just to keep them occupied. And I have just finished their little building here. So let me just, obviously I still need to detail the outside a bit. But I put a little frame around the door. I put on a roof. Something a bit different. I quite like having the dip in the middle. It just adds a bit of character to the roof. Rather than having everything just going up to a point, it's nice to just vary it up a little bit. But then inside is the main thing that I've just done, which was a bit of straw on the floor and these lovely heat lamps. So this is just a length of rope, and then you have an upturned African pot, and then I put the light on the bottom, which you set to permanently on. And you just adjust the colour. In my case, I've just done it to orange so it looks hot. And yeah, I think they just look cool. And obviously at night time, that's when you really get the true effect from it. So the tortoises will go in here and they just sit under the heat lamp. So yeah, brilliant. I like it. So I haven't done a lot in that update. Sorry, it's I just had to show you my friends, the tortoises. Oh look, they're all coming to get some food now. Hungry little things they are. Oh, it must be so frustrating not being able to run. And they see the food in the distance and they're thinking, oh man, I've got to put in so much effort to get there. Look at me, I'm old. My bones are creaking. I can almost taste it. Oh, poor little things. They're all coming over. Oh, they're lovely. I'd love to have a big one like this in the garden. I really would love to have a big tortoise. I do have a larger tortoise. I have one that I keep at my parents' house. And he is... How big is he? He's probably about... I don't know, somewhere between 12 and 14 inches long, I think. So he's pretty big. He's old as well. He's somewhere in his 70s. We don't exactly know. We inherited him from a gentleman that's had him his whole life, and when he passed away, we were left him essentially. So we inherited Jasper the tortoise, and yeah, he's awesome. He's a great pet. He really is. He's like a wise old man. I mean, he's certainly wiser. It's crazy to think that he's nearly double my age. You know, this tortoise. You think of everything I've been through in my life. This tortoise has been around nearly twice as long as I have, and just think of all the things he's lived through. Most of that time, he just lived in our friend's garden, just living in the undergrowth and escaping. He used to escape, and he used to be found kind of, you know, a few doors away, up and down the road. He's quite a celebrity actually in the street that my parents live in. This tortoise was quite well known because he used to just turn up in people's gardens, and they'd have to pick him up and take him back home again. He doesn't do that anymore. He has a pen in the garden. You know, it's a big pen, so you've got plenty of room to walk around, but he can't escape. So he's a little bit safer now because he can't just wander out onto the road either. So it's a miracle that he survived over 70 years, really. But he's doing very well. Anyway, let me crack on with some more, and I promise in the next update I will have actually done a bit more building. I just did a little bit there, but I just wanted to introduce you to our tortoises before I move on. So now I will go and do something a bit more productive. Done much more this time. Hopefully you'll be more impressed with my updates this time. So inside the habitat, there's not a lot to do, I'll be honest, with tortoise habitats, because you don't really want them to be climbing, so you don't want to be building raised areas because they just can't do it. So you have to keep it pretty much flat. So it's really just about foliage, giving them some cover. Obviously the enrichment items are in. So I've just used some shrubs because they'll come and sit down in the shrubs. And this grass as well, I love this grass. I know it's an underwater one, it's the underwater eelgrass, but I love the look of it. And tortoises love long grass. They like to just, you know, go into the middle of a patch of grass and sink down into it and disappear. Things like this, they like trees because it gives them a bit of shelter, and they'll come into this undergrowth underneath here, and they'll just huddle down once they've eaten what they need and they've had a drink. In fact, I'll be honest with you, tortoises never drink. They don't drink. We have, like I say, we have 2 tortoises in the family. I've never seen either of them drink. They just don't. They basically they get most of the moisture that they need through their food, because they are vegetable eaters, essentially herbivores. They just eat leaves, so lettuce, cabbage, watercress is a favourite. They'll eat cauliflower and broccoli, cucumber, anything. If it's, oh look, you see this typically. You can see this one is having a drink. In real life, they don't do that. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't have one of this particular breed, but certainly the ones that we have don't actually drink. And the other thing they can do, they can absorb water through their shell. So actually, if they're outside when it rains, all the water that lands on them will be absorbed into their system, and that's another way that they actually get water into their bodies. So what we do with our tortoises is once a week we just put them in a tub of water, You know, you not a lot, obviously, because they can't swim. You don't want to drown them, but you just put a couple of centimeters of water in a dish bowl, and you sit them in there for about 10 minutes, and they'll just sit there and blow a few bubbles, and they'll absorb the water into their bloodstream, which is all they need. So yeah, I mean, they're very odd creatures, tortoises, and you do have to know what you're doing with them. You can't just buy one without really researching how you look after them and keep them healthy. So if you are considering having one, make sure you know what you're doing and know what you're getting into, because if you get a young one, you've probably got a pet for the rest of your life. Certainly what we're hoping with our little tortoise. She's 13 at the moment, so she is likely to live longer than I do, which is a scary thought. But nice, it's a nice thought. One day she will hopefully be passed down to my children, is the plan. Anyway, so yeah, hopefully you appreciate my educating you in the ways of tortoises. Right, so as you can see, I'm just moving through here. It's fairly similar, just a small selection of different shrubs and a tree. I put a tree in each of the areas here. A bit of a struggle to find trees that actually fitted underneath these roofs. I love this tamarind tree. I think I had to sink that one a fair way into the floor. And then this one, is this a mangrove apple, I think? Yeah, so that one didn't have to sink too much. What have we got at this end? Custard apple. Again, I didn't have to sink that one either. And then obviously just plenty of enrichment items around as well. On the outside, I've just gone all the way around here with the same palette of flowers. I've mixed it up. I've used quite a few. I've sort of broken my rule of only having a few different plants in a bed, but that's because these beds are so big. Because they snake all the way around the whole habitat, I didn't want to just use 3 or 4 types of plant because it would get a bit too repetitive. That works in a smaller space or a more what's the word, you know, like a square. You know, if you've got a nice sort of a square shape, if you have just 3 or 4 plants within that space, it works really nicely. Whereas around a long area like this, a sort of a long thin border, it would look a little bit too repetitive. So it actually works a bit better to have more variety in these long borders. So that's what I've done. So that snakes all the way around here. I haven't finished this last bit yet. I'm going to put something larger in there. And then along here as well. And then this bit here, I'm going to do a raised flower bed in here, I think. Just so it's something a little bit different. And then this is a blueprint that I created actually. I think this was back in my very first zoo in Green Valley Zoo. I made this, so I'm reusing that. So that's 21 different objects in there, 2 of which are the pots at the bottom, and then there's 19 different plants. And it's a little bit busy. I could create something better than this now. I'm a better builder, but I still like this. I love having this lipstick palm at the top. And it was really simple, this actually. I just start at the bottom. You do the copy and move, the advanced move tool, and then you just reselect what flower you want. You just keep lifting them up. So obviously all of these plants higher up, they don't go down to the bottom, but they just disappear into the undergrowth. And so you can just keep on getting them higher and higher and higher. So in here you've got this little sort of peach coloured flower. Or, you know, the bottom of that only probably reaches about there, but because it's in amongst all of this, it just looks like a really tall flower. So it works really nicely. And there's some lovely fern leaves coming out of here. You've got this lovely goldenrod kind of in the middle here. Looks like the sort of the structural plant here, and then obviously bursting out of the middle, you've got 2 palms. So you've got one more palm here, and then you've got the large lipstick one coming right the way up to the top. So I just used that twice in these 2 little viewing circles that I created. I love these. They make very nice centerpieces to areas like that. I may well use some of these more in the park as well. I will probably create a couple of new ones at some point as well, because you can't have too many plant pots in your zoo, really, can you? I've also done what I said. Oh, excuse me, get out the tree. There we go. I have put this hedging around this area. So this is probably my next thing to do. So again, this is just going to be a shrubbery, not completely full up. There'll be plenty of soil showing, and then I think I'm going to put a couple of nice statues, a couple of plinths and animal statues into that. And then I still need to do the shrubbery coming around the back here. I've got this flower bed to do. I won't do anything on this side because I don't know what I'm building on this side yet, so I'm just going to worry about this back side here, and obviously this. So that's what I've got to do next. So let me just crack on with some of that and I'll be right back. Slight change of plan there. I decided not to do this yet because I just had a bit of an urge to get on and do this this area at the back here. So that's what I've done. So you can see from the aerial shots here. So this is a large blueprint that I've got here, and it's largely just copied actually from this blueprint here. Kind of copied and manipulated. So if you come down low, started here, so I just put some shrubs in here. I didn't want to block this window, and I didn't want to get anything too tall around this trellis, so just went with some low shrubs here. And then as you come around the side, it's more the same really. So I've used exactly the same palette, so all the same trees and the same shrubs. So you've got all the low stuff at the front. Actually, the one extra one that I discovered was this. So this is actually a tree. This is dragon's blood tree. And if you sink it into the ground, it just looks like this sort of spiky bush, which I really like. I don't actually really like it as a tree, but actually when you sink it in, I quite like that. It's something a bit different, isn't it? So there is a few of those sprinkled around the place as well. So as you walk around here, you can see you're just... It makes a good border, you know. You kind of know something's beyond there and in there. It's a bit mysterious, but you can't quite see in. And obviously it's thick enough that you can't go walking off the path and into the trees. Although I'm sure little kids could. I know certainly I would be straight in here and exploring, and I'd go, oh, loads of field, oh, run away! I wonder how far you can go. Oh, that's weird. How far away can you go? I've never done this before. This is quite exciting, isn't it? Oh, I've reached the edge. I've reached the edge of the world. I can't go anymore. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't think you could go quite that far, but there you go. Anyway, sorry, back into the park. Zoo. Sorry, not park, zoo. So yeah, more the same along here. I did put one of these ghost gum trees right next to the pathway, just to mix it up a bit. Just felt like I wanted something there. It's a feature tree, isn't it? That big one. And I wanted, you know, the eye line from over here. It needed something just here in this gap. So that was my thinking there. I do that a lot when I'm designing certainly things in the background here. This is something I would definitely advise you to do when you're building your own zoo. Is come down to the ground and look at views, look at eye lines. You know, so from here, this to me looks really pleasant because you've got these lovely orange ones, but you've got them just slightly set apart. If this one here was just in front of here, it wouldn't look very good at all from this angle. It might look okay from over there somewhere, over to the left, but from this angle it wouldn't. And obviously this is the angle that people are walking along. So that's the sort of detail that I go into when I'm designing these shrubs and trees. You really got to think about what it looks like. So from here, to me this looks really nice. You've got a bit of height here. You've got color variations next to each other, or different foliage. So here you've got a green and a green, but completely different structure and foliage types. Then you've got the ghost gum here. You've got orange separated by the green here. Now that may be a level of detail that you don't want to go into when you're doing your own zoos, but that's just how I do it. So I will always just take a step back like this and look at the different eye lines of where people are walking, what they're going to see, and whether I think it looks natural, whether I think anything's appealing. You don't want things blocking your eye line, all that sort of thing. And obviously I get that because that's what I do in real life. I'm a gardener. I design stuff, and when you're designing a new flower bed, obviously I don't design huge tree areas like this. But when you're designing a flower bed, that's what you got to do. You have to put your plants down and step back and walk around and see what they're going to look like. You have to obviously a lot of the time imagine what they're going to look like in 2 or 3 years once they're fully grown. All that sort of thing. So there's a lot of detail that goes into design, which is obviously why I love doing all of this stuff in the game. Of course, in the game it's a lot easier to do it because you can plant a fully grown tree, whereas in real life you can't. So yeah, it does make it a little bit easier, and of course you can move things quite easily in the game as well, whereas in real life you can't. Anyway, let's crack on. So I've also put a little bit of bamboo in here as well, which was one that I hadn't put on the other area by the entrance. And in this gap on the left here, again I've sunk this dragon blood tree into the ground, and I put one of these lovely orange conifers in. The main reason I wanted a large something in here, something big, probably a tree, and what I decided was I just wanted to bring these trees alive in this area. So I kind of link them together in the best way that I could, and the best way to do that is to copy one of the trees from this side onto this side of the path, you know, just to blend the two areas together a little bit more. If I could do more I would, but I did. The other option would have been to put some trees into this space here, but I really didn't want to do that because I didn't want to block the view. So as you come around here by the aardvarks, I want you to walk around this corner and instantly see this habitat here. If there were any trees in here at all, it would block it too much. So I just wanted to keep the trees up here in the background and not block the view. There is, like I said, there's going to be some shrubs and some statues in here, but hopefully I will do that in such a way that you can still see that there's a habitat here, and you instantly think, right, I'm going to walk around this way, or I'm going to walk around this way, and I'm going to go and check it out. That's the plan anyway, and that's probably what I'll be doing next. I've also got a bit of an idea just on the back here. I've got an idea of something I want to do just here, because of course this is our viewing window, so this is the main bit. Obviously you've got one on this side as well, but when you go around the back here, the main reason for coming around the back here would be to come and have a look inside the bed area here. So I just want to have a go at a small structure that I want to build here. Don't know if it will work, but I'm going to give it a go and I'll show you the results. I've still got this little bed here to do as well, and then obviously I've still got this flower bed. So all of those things still to come. So let's crack on with a bit more. Okay, we've finished our tortoise habitat, so let me just walk you into the area and you'll be able to see what I've done. So as you come around the corner here, we have the habitat in the background, and in the foreground now I have built a small shrubbery in here with a couple of statues. You've got a lovely big gorilla here, and you've got a dodo. Don't ask me why, I just love the dodo statue, so I had to have a dodo in there. I know it's an extinct animal and it's probably got no place being in the zoo, but it's just cool. So yes, I had to have a dodo, and the gorilla is just so impressive. It may change, because if at some point I actually build a gorilla habitat of some sort, then maybe that will move. Actually, I mean, there aren't even proper mountain gorillas in the game, are there? I can't remember. I know there's quite a few different monkeys, aren't there? What have you got? You've got a bonobo, you've got orangutan. Obviously there are the smaller monkeys. I know you've got chimpanzees. Let's have a look. What else is there? Japanese macaque. A mandrill. Proboscis monkey. More lemurs. More lemurs. Ah, yes, there are. Western lowland gorilla. Yeah, that makes sense. Do you know what? I actually haven't had these in any of my zoos yet. I may have to do that, because they're great animals, aren't they? And I think that could be quite fun building something for them. I've always gone with the chimpanzees whenever I've done an enclosure. I've never actually got around to doing a gorilla one, so maybe that's something I need to do at some point in the zoo. Anyway, sorry, I'm digressing again. So this shrubbery, like I said, it's pretty simple. I didn't want anything too tall in here because I didn't want to block the view. Again, I've kept the number of shrubs, or number of different shrubs, to a minimum. Plenty of bare soil, certainly around the edge as well, so I don't want anything growing out over the pathway. You know, one sort of feature one in the middle here that I've doubled it up to make it look like one larger shrub, and then just smaller all around the outside. A little bit of colour. You've got the creosote bush and the hydrangea, and this one that I always forget the name of, the crimson turkey bush. And so yeah, I think that looks nice. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. And obviously the statues are great, aren't they? Nice and simple. Then let's head around the back here, because there's a couple of things that I've done. So this was what I wanted to do here. Really simple structure. Just some wooden beams coming out of the building and down into this flower pot here, where you have the start of a young wisteria growing up. In fact, there's probably 2 plants there. They will eventually grow up and come up across here, and all the flowers would be hanging down from here. So that's the idea behind that, is that it's meant to be like a new addition to the to this structure, and obviously some fresh plants put in these pots here. Yeah, I think it looks kind of nice. I'm thinking maybe the background of this is that there's maybe too much sun coming into this window here, so to block off the sun at certain times of day, they want to grow something up over here to give it a sort of dappled shade. Actually, why it's there is just because I fancy building it, quite frankly. So there it is. And then the other thing that I just finished off here was this small raised bed. So this is a really simple bed. Yet again, I used one of these planters here. So this is the New World planter. As you can see, I've just flipped it upside down, like I have done over by the penguin habitat with one of the other planters. Just turn it upside down and it gives us a new material to use as an edge to a raised flower border. And then a couple of these green panels in here. I wanted this to look like a little sort of jungly damp border. So a couple of ferns, a couple of tree ferns, and just one of these it's sea holly, I think, isn't it? Yeah, alpine sea holly. Just to add a little sprinkling of colour, and again just to kind of blend it in a little bit more with the flower beds next door. And some ivy growing up the building as well, just for good measure. Can't have too much ivy growing up walls, can you? So just a couple of bits on here as well. Just a few little details like that to finish it off. So there we are. That is our tortoise habitat area. I am really pleased with how this one turned out. I think the shape of this bed is really nice. I love having this hedging. Excuse me, this hedging as a border really defines the edge, doesn't it? I think it looks really, really good like that. Makes it look very formal, especially with these archways as well. And I think because of the formal shaping of this habitat as well, I think it works really well with having quite a formal structure of planting around it as well. And then these pots really sort of just accentuate that as well. So yeah, I'm really pleased with how it all turned out actually. I think looking from above, I think it looks welcoming, it looks pretty well organised, and the tortoises love it. So, and that's the main thing, our animals are happy. See one here having a little wander, having a little spray of water. Who are you? Gahiji. I'm probably pronouncing that terribly, but there we are. So there we go, that is our tortoise habitat all finished. And I can tell you that our next habitat, in fact you might have just caught a glimpse of it because I've already started the structure, so I will give you a spoiler. It's over here, and it's going to be orangutans, and that is all I'm going to say. But this is the rough shape of the path structure that is going to be coming in to fill this gap over here. So that will be our next episode. For now, that is going to do me for this episode. So I do hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining me as we give our tortoises a home. I hope you like what I've done. Please do let me know in the comments if you do, or indeed if you don't. And if you don't, I'll just go away and have a little cry in the corner. If you do, I will smile. There we go. Right, so thank you very much. Hopefully you can join me again in the next episode. Until then, do take care of yourselves. I will see you soon.